The next step in our medical term discussion is learning how to decode medical terms once you have the root words, suffixes, and prefixes all combined into one term. And so the goal for today is to be able to look at a medical term and break it down, decode each of those parts to really figure out what does this medical term mean. So there's a couple things to know before you start looking at a term to decode it. So the first is that sometimes there's some random vowels in a medical term, and they're really put there just to make the word easier to combine. So a couple rules when you're combining word parts. So when you're combining the root words together, or the suffixes together, or the prefixes together. So always know that a medical term cannot just be a root word. And again, a root word points to a part in the body. A root word cannot stand alone. A root word has to have a suffix. Okay, so at a base, your medical term is always going to have a root word and a suffix. Your medical term does not have to have a prefix. Okay, combining vowels. So those vowels that I was talking about, they're added to make the term easier to pronounce. So in this example here, gastroenteritis, okay, there's actually two root words in there. Gastra is the stomach, enter is the intestine. Okay, and so they put the O in there to just make the gastra and the enter flow together. So gast o enter and then itis. Okay, so when the word is all together, it just flows really well. When you add that vowel in there, they just call that the combining form. So, where this could trip you up is, let's say you're trying to decode this word and you're looking for the root word, and you're looking for gastro, but you can't find gastro because that's not the root word because they threw that combining vowel in there. So you're really looking for gaster. Okay. Or let's say you were looking for the intestine, you were looking for that root word, and you're trying to find the word OENTR. So just putting the combining vowel with the enter, which means intestine, you wouldn't be able to find that. So just knowing that sometimes it's most commonly O that's put in there to just, again, make the word flow a little better. When you combine word parts, there's a couple different rules for that. And so when do you put that combining vowel? When do you put that O in there? So when the suffix begins with a consonant, now you wouldn't put it in between enter and itis, okay, because the itis starts with a vowel, and so it flows well. A lot of your suffixes already start with a vowel to make it very easy to join the word together. And then anytime you have two or more root words in a medical term, so anytime you have two or more body parts, those are the root words, then you're going to put that O in there. And then there's a couple do nots, okay? I want to make you aware of the O just so it doesn't confuse you at all today as you're decoding medical terms, but we're really going to focus on, okay, so I give you this medical term. How do you start by breaking it down and figuring out what it means? So decoding a medical term, the best way that I like to do this and that I teach it is just like this picture is showing you here, okay? Breaking down each small part of the word to figure out what it means and then bringing it together, okay? So I like to physically write it out, and I love this picture because it shows you exactly how I would do it and how I would have you do it if we were in person. So the first thing is figure out the root word, okay? Figure out the root word. So we see transneural, ner is your root word, and it means nerves. Once you figure out the root word, it's very simple to look before the root word and go, oh, that's your prefix, okay? And oh, after is your suffix. And then you can flip to those notes you took from last week and figure out, well, what does trans mean? I know it's a prefix. I'm going to look on my prefix notes. What does it mean? Okay. Well, what does al, all mean? I know it's the suffix because it's after the root word. So what does that mean? So I always suggest finding the root word first, because then right away it breaks that word and you can find that prefix and that suffix. Now remember, your medical term does not have to have a prefix, so there might not be anything in front of the root word. So by breaking this down, we know that this term has something to do with something across or through the nerves, and it has to do with that. Okay. And sometimes that's about as good of an explanation as you're going to get. Okay. So what did we kind of learn? It was very quick, but just a couple things. A word root cannot stand alone. It has to have a suffix, but you do not have to have a prefix. Sometimes a combining vowel is added between word parts. Most commonly, it's added between two root words to make the term easier to pronounce. Okay. When you add that letter in there, the combining vowel, it's just called the combining form. And when you start to decode a medical term, start by defining the root word, which will lead you to the body part. Then look ahead before the root word, that's your prefix. After is the suffix. So let's give this a try. So with hypothyroidism, okay, so I'm going to break it down just like you saw on the example earlier. So I found my root word, okay, and I just kind of drew this little line just so I know, okay, I'm focusing in on thyroid, and I know that's my root word. It happens to mean thyroid, so that one's a pretty easy one. And then I go, okay, well, what is before that? Well, before that is my prefix. My prefix is hypo. Look on your notes, you'll see that hypo means under. Where else do we see that? Well, like hypothermia, okay, we know that that means your temperature is below what it should be. So hyper means under. So your thyroid is probably performing under how it should be. Is if you're starting to kind of figure out what this means, then you go, all right, so I know under thyroid. Well, what's left? What's ism? Well, ism is your suffix. It means condition. Okay. So we know this is a condition where your thyroid is producing under what it should. Okay. So it's not acting the right way. Something about it is under producing. So hypothyroidism. I like to write it out like that because in my mind, it's just very clear what it means then. And I can see all of my definitions all together. Okay. What else you could do, and I'm going to use neurology for this, okay, is you could also do it like this. And this is actually how I'm going to have you do it in your assignment today. So, neurology. So, prefix, root, suffix, meaning. Okay. Well, let's find our root. Okay, well, this one's pretty easy because I know my root is ner. Okay, my root is ner, and that means nerves. Okay, and then my suffix. Okay, my suffix is logi. Okay, and that means the study of. Well, this, you guys, is a perfect example of this O in here. Okay, so I'll just bold that. The O was added in there to make it easier for the term to flow. Because your suffix started with a consonant, you then put that O in there, again, to make just the word easier to say. So there is no prefix because there is nothing in before. So I can just write none. So now let's talk about the meaning. Well, this is the study of nerves. Pretty simple, okay? You just kind of put those two together and then you get your meaning. So it can be pretty simple once you just take the time to break each term down. So that's what you guys are going to practice a little bit with today. So on Google Classroom, there's a little Google form. I have 10 medical terms that I want you to practice decoding. I have just again some reminders in there of how to do that and then exactly how I want you to submit the answer. So just like you saw me work through, go ahead and list out the prefix, what it means if there is one, the root or root words and what it means, the suffix, and then I just want you to do a quick explanation to the best of your ability. I don't want you to look on Google and figure out what it means, okay? Just with having the knowledge of the prefix, root word, and suffix. By explaining that, what does this medical term kind of have to do with? Okay, so you can see I use cardiology here as an example. No prefix, cardi means heart, logi means study of, so just like we kind of did with neurology, it means the study of the heart. Okay, some of them will have prefixes, some of them might not have prefixes. So the last thing I want to make you aware of is that starting tomorrow, so the remainder of this week, we're going to be working on a little group project, okay? You can work with a partner or you can work with a group of 3. If you really want to work individually, that is fine as well. Okay, so start thinking, start reaching out to your peers. We'll do signups tomorrow. I'll explain what we're doing, but we're really going to keep focusing on medical terms this week. All right, so shout out to me with any questions. Other than that, I'm excited to see you guys start to decode some medical terms.